Okay, we are live. I'm very happy to talk to Jamie Leverton, CEO of Hut 8 Mining. Hi, Jamie. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm a big shareholder of Hut 8. My community loves Hut 8 too. So, yeah, it's great to have you here. And yeah, it's great that you're starting 2 weeks ago to trade on Nasdaq, the Tier 1, the global select market. I think you're the only Bitcoin miner which is trading there, which is amazing. Can you tell us a little bit how difficult it was to get there? When did you start with the application process and so on?
Yeah, absolutely. My first day on the job was December the 1st. And it was definitely before the end of the first month that we really started to seriously look at and prioritize our cross listing to the NASDAQ, really driven by wanting access to that larger pool that struggled to participate when we were exclusively over the counter in the US and on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And really just kind of watching the liquidity that some of our peers had that were trading on the Nasdaq. It really made sense for that to be a top strategic priority for me as I took the helm and kind of planned out where we were going to focus over the short and medium term. So and then, of course, there's a lot that goes into the uplisting process. So we had to assemble a team that we were comfortable with, and we did a ton of due diligence. It did start with filing our base shelf in Canada. We're able to use a process called the MJDS process, where it allows us to continue with our kind of regular Canadian filings, at least in the beginning, as we trade on the Nasdaq until we get to a certain kind of percentage of shareholders being US based. Then it would change some of our financial reporting requirements. So that's kind of the process that we selected, and then ultimately the time frame has been delayed in the Nasdaq process. There's a lot of activity happening in the US markets with SPACs, as I think everybody knows. So it meant just more congestion in the system and a longer process than I think would otherwise have been experienced. But we were incredibly pleased with the result. Obviously, the first Canadian miner to be listed on the Nasdaq, which was a huge accomplishment for us. And you can see in the trading volumes and the liquidity over the last couple of weeks since we made that move, it really was the right decision. And we're incredibly excited to now establish relationships with the U.S. market more directly, start to kind of open up the marketing that we're now able to do, being out of kind of that quiet period or that blackout period leading up to the uplisting. And so, yeah, I think hopefully you've seen more from us in the last couple of weeks. And that will continue certainly over the next few months as we continue to get our message out and get to know this new market.
Yes, I think there is still a valuation gap between these Canadian miners and the established US miners there on Nasdaq. So I think we need Bitcoin to rise again to get a little bit more FOMO again, and I think then this valuation gap I think will start to close. So I'm very excited for this one. We will see. We need Bitcoin, I think, again to make a move here. Okay, so thank you for this. Let's talk about expansion. I mean, we received some very good news from Hut 8 about a big expansion and a big commitment into Bitcoin mining. That was very important for me. I like also diversification, but for me, it's important that Bitcoin mining is always the core business because
Absolutely.
I'm a Bitcoin believer. So, can you tell us a little bit about the big purchase there of these micro-BT miners and the target of 6 exahash for next year?
Yeah, happy to. So, as I'm sure you recall, we started with a purchase of 5,400 units from MicroBT back in January, of which just over half is installed. So the balance of that order is installing over the next few weeks. And then I guess it was last week, we announced the purchase of an incremental 1.1 exahash worth of equipment from MicroBT. Just under 100 petahash of that order will deliver within the next few weeks as well. So by the end of August, you'll see all of that initial 5,400 units up and hashing. You'll see the 1,600 gigahash that we added in GPU mining, which of course we intend to settle in Bitcoin directly out of the pool as well, using those GPU miners. Those will be up and hashing by the end of August. And then we'll add that extra 100 petahash. So all by the end of August. And then the next exahash starts delivering late September, with all of it expected to be in and up by the end of December. So that's kind of how we walk to that 2.5 to 3 exahash online by the end of the year. Again, depending on how you think about our 1,600 gigahash, whether you're converting that to a petahash equivalent or treating it separately.
Yes, I mean, I think Ethereum has also a big future, so I liked that deal too. I mean, these GPUs right now, they are not cheap, but Bitcoin miners are also not cheap. And I think, what is your opinion about this transition to proof of stake from Ethereum? Because I think a lot of people are afraid about it, but you made a big purchase. Hive recently announced that they bought new GPUs. So I think that you maybe know more than the average Joe when this proof of stake thing is going to happen, this full transition.
Well, I think it's something that's been talked about for a long time. I think the conversations that we're having make it feel like we're 18 to 24 months out, most likely, before there is a full transition. We've run the business case. We ran it very conservatively out of the gate. And we looked at, if proof of stake comes in the shorter term, how does the business case look if we're mining the next most profitable network, which currently is Ethereum Classic? And the reality is the business case holds very well in either scenario. So we feel like, and frankly, when we made the decision to make that investment, Ethereum was trading significantly lower than it is today. So the business case has only improved, and from what we're seeing, there's more consensus that proof of stake is going to take longer than they were kind of talking about earlier this year. I saw, I believe it was Coinbase, put up a blurb recently saying they were expecting proof of stake to the transition to happen in 2 to 3 years. Hive's PR referenced their expectation being somewhere in the 2-year timeframe. So I think that's where general consensus is tending to lean more so now, although it's really hard to say. And then, of course, there's a lot of discussion about, will this prompt another hard fork? Will we end up with an Ethereum Classic, an Ethereum 1.0 or something, and then an Ethereum proof of stake? It's really, there's a lot of moving pieces. It's hard to predict kind of timing and next steps and ultimately what the path's going to look like. But the most important thing is that we have a business case that has only improved and can weather the next most profitable network quite easily.
Yeah, I mean, it can also be a huge advantage, this transition to proof of stake, because maybe not a lot of miners are investing right now into additional Ether mining hardware. We have also seen the hash rate dropping, maybe because of the China crackdown, I don't know. So, I mean, the miners, they're with the most efficient hardware. I think they can mine the longest. And yeah, the difficulty bump when it finally starts, I mean, you will be there at the end with this high efficiency I calculated something like 95% or so a mining margin right now. And I don't think that the mining profitability for Ethereum is high right now, so it's more low. So I think it could go higher. So yeah, I really like this move, this diversification strategy, and yeah, hopefully we can mine Ethereum for a long time.
Yeah, I agree. And look, the move serves multi-purposes. It's not just about getting diversification into mining alternative networks. It delivers a considerably lower power profile. Obviously, that 1,600 gigahash will take about 3 megawatts of power. So just the operating expenses to mine that equipment is significantly less than ASICs. And then it gets our crew, I think, as you know, we run all our own facilities. It's all our own staff that does on-site repair and maintenance of the equipment, that runs our data centers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so really getting our staff skilled up on GPU compute and GPU mining is important. And then it allows for us to think about alternate high performance compute initiatives down the line as we continue to expand our skill set and diversify the compute that our team is comfortable running.
Okay, talking about staff, how many employees does Hut 8 currently approximately has?
So we often use temporary employees when we have orders coming in, like we do right now. We just got another 900 machines of our January order just arrived on site. So we bring in extra staff to help facilitate the fastest possible deployment of equipment. But from a full-time employee perspective, we're at about 32.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty lean, I think. But yeah, big operation, definitely. So talking about the Validas partnership there, you have this partner, this energy, this power producer, Validas, and yeah, you're building a facility with Validas, or Validas is building a facility. Can you talk about this new facility?
Yeah, so that we haven't announced the location of the site yet. It will be in Alberta. We're anticipating the first 35 megawatts to be up by the end of the year, sometime in the middle of the fourth quarter. Validus it's behind the fence power generation, so they'll stand up a site specifically for our use, dedicated to our use. It's off grid. Yeah, we're really excited about it. Validus is another Canadian company, deep history working in behind the fence power generation across the country and across the globe for some really strategic projects.
Okay, yeah, I mean, you were talking a few months ago a lot about this flare gas thing, and I think Validas is using flare gas, and this new facility, have some flare gas to burn to generate Bitcoin, or how does this work?
So we will announce the composition when we announce the site.
Okay, so yeah.
But yes, that's one of the technologies that they've worked through, where they can actually capture flare gas, convert it into productive gas for the use in Bitcoin mining. One of the challenges we have in Canada is we really have a very limited amount of flare gas in Canada, just because the regulation has been in place that has limited flare gas emissions significantly in Canada versus what we see in other places like North Dakota or West Texas. So we don't have the flare gas at scale in Canada, which is a good thing. You don't want to have a lot of flare gas being emitted, certainly, but where there is flare gas in Canada, through our partnership with Validus, it can be recaptured and used for productive purposes.
Okay, yeah. So then we are waiting for this news about the facility. We have right now the special situation with Bitcoin hash rate. We have this huge crackdown from the Chinese government, so the miners had to shut down, and they're looking now for new locations. So how does Hut 8 want to capitalize from this situation right now? I mean, you bought miners at $44 a terahash, which was a very good move, I think, and the price was very good. I think this was also maybe because of this situation right now. But what are the further plans there?
Yeah, it was a result of that situation. MicroBT had been sold out for delivery in year, but some of the orders fell away with the crackdown in China, and we were able to step in and pick up the order that we did last week, which obviously we're really thrilled with. The reality for all miners right now that are still online is that the downward difficulty adjustment this week has meant really a significant increase in output and profitability for all miners as a result. So we're incredibly grateful to be able to take advantage of that increase in profitability. And it looks like we're going to see another small downward correction in the next adjustment as well, which is fantastic. The incremental 100 petahash that we were able to order coming in the next few weeks from MicroBT, also a result of that exodus. So that is allowing us to get more hash rate online sooner to take advantage of the reduced global network hash rate. So really a positive result from a Hut 8 perspective that we've been able to capitalize in a few different ways. And then, of course, we're getting a ton of inbound inquiries for the hosting side of our business. There's a lot of activity, people looking for hosting capabilities in North America. And the reality is we are fully at capacity right now until the new site gets built out. But depending on where things land and how long it takes some of these miners to find new homes, there may be an opportunity for us to capitalize in our hosting business later this year or next year as we bring on new power as well.
Okay, yeah, so a lot of miners are searching for location. I mean, I like to see it when you're self-mining, but I also do understand the business of hosting. It's more stable, and when you have a new site and you don't have all the miners there, to me it makes sense to host some companies there, to diversify a little bit, and yeah.
Well, it's nice. It's nice for us to have some fiat-based revenue streams to pay our fiat-based operating expenses, and really that's what we look for in the hosting side of our business, and also the yield side of our business. It helps pay the expenses of the self-mining so that we can hodl more Bitcoin. We've been hodlers since the very beginning of our time, and it's certainly a strategy that has benefited us incredibly well. We're obviously very proud to have the largest amount of self-mined Bitcoin of any publicly traded company in the world, and it's something that we continue to expand on and grow.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, you're coming close to 4,000, I think, or should come right now. I think you can comment on this.
I think the last time we announced our balance, it was just over 3,800.
Yes. So I mean, now it's 10 Bitcoins a day or so. So it's growing fast, and that's great. I mean, I'm an investor in Hut 8 since 2018 or so, and I was there. There was a quarter when Hut 8 mined 2,816 Bitcoins. This is unbelievable today with the hash rate increase. Okay, we're now down at the halving. But this hodl strategy really paid off, and that's why I'm fan of this hodl strategy. Hodl as much as you can. Okay, on the other side, a lot of people of my community, they're increasingly afraid about dilution, because all the miners they raise capital, or many of the miners. Also Hut 8 made a huge offering. And what's the strategy there in the future? Is it also possible to, for example, to take a loan or to take collateral on the Bitcoins you have on the balance sheet? So what are the possibilities there?
Yeah, so I'm sure you recall we used our Bitcoin as collateral during the bear market to raise funds when we needed them to really fund operations at that time when capital was incredibly hard to come by for Bitcoin miners. And of course, we didn't want to sell down our Bitcoin balance. So having the opportunity to partner with Genesis, use our Bitcoin as collateral, raise the capital that we needed to get through the halving and to the other side of what was the liquidity crisis and the Bitcoin price drop in March. We're incredibly grateful for that. And so that opportunity continues to be available to us. Of course, as I think we haven't sold a Bitcoin since early January. And really at these price levels, I don't think it makes sense. We really believe that we're in the middle of a dip, but we're not at the end of the bull market. So we're conscious of really trying not to sell into this market. But the other thing let me take a step back. That also plays into the diversified revenue strategy. So having other sources of income is really, really helpful to pay the operating expenses, to allow us to hodl more coin without having to raise equity for those moments. And then it also changes the landscape a bit when you're talking to traditional financial institutions about raising debt. When you have other sources of income that are predictable, stable, more easy to model, we're able to now have new conversations about potential debt financing that we couldn't have had 6 months ago. So those conversations are definitely happening. As you know, we have a new CFO who has a background that's heavily debt and heavily M&A. So he really understands where to go and how to look at different opportunities for debt financing. And as I say, we're having conversations that are more compelling now than they were before. I mean, historically, we were really dependent, and all crypto miners generally were dependent on financing coming from others in the space, and using our Bitcoin as collateral, but then also paying double-digit interest rates on top of it. So really expensive debt, which is why you see miners raising equity so consistently, because it's much less expensive than raising debt at the terms that are generally available to us. But we see some improvement coming based on the conversations that we're having and the difference that our kind of financial position and our diversified strategy allows us to have. So everything is being looked at, and I would just say at a very high level, we're much happier with what we're starting to see coming out in other sources of capital than historically we have been.
Okay, so I expect the interest rate below double digits right now.
That is certainly where I would feel more comfortable.
Yes, okay, me too. Sounds good. Okay, so you have this partnership with BLONITY right now, which makes a lot of sense, and you have a partnership with Bitfury, which was obviously the hardware provider in the last few years. And yeah, can you tell us a little bit about what is the partnership right now and what is going to look like in the future?
Yeah, so we announced last week that we had terminated the historic IRA between Bitfury and Hut 8. So we are really now we're partners, we're friends, but that contractual obligation that tied us together is really no longer there. We've moved past that and now are truly an independent organization, independent from Bitfury, and Bitfury is able to work independently from us as well. So I think it's a natural progression from where we started to where we are. And the nice thing is we have great relationships. We continue to work together on some of the legacy hardware, and we partner on some of the software at the sites. And we're really excited about some of the R&D that's happening over at Bitfury, and optimistic that we'll be able to partner again in the future. But we are now doing it as independent organizations, and I think it's a really nice story to be able to have started where we started, and both to have grown where we've been able to grow to over the last 3 years.
Yes, that sounds great. Very important to be independent in this business because the changes are happening so fast, and you want to be always with the best hardware provider at that time. Talking about institutions, what is the interest right now from institutions, especially with the Nasdaq Tier 1 listing? Can you feel like the interest of institutions is increasing?
I would say we're having a ton of conversations with institutions we weren't having prior to the listing. So it's absolutely opened up the world of possibility, a lot of new interest and new conversations. We were really, really pleased in our last financing. We had a ton of of interest, and there was a significant amount of oversubscription in that last deal. So we know that the market's there, the appetite is there, and we think really it's about getting the story out there, because we continue to be just not as well known. And when people hear the Hut story, they naturally connect to it. Like we always get a very positive response to the story. But for many institutions, they're hearing it for the first time now.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. So yeah, when Bitcoin rises again with the Nasdaq listing and institutional investors, I think yeah, we will have a lot of fun in the future with Hut 8. Talking about diversification, the business right now from Hut 8 is all computing. Generating Bitcoin, soon generate Ether, and maybe doing some high performance computing. So what are there any plans for going into Web 3.0, DeFi or something like this? Or do investments here?
We don't have any concrete plans. There's nothing I can speak about today, but it's certainly one of the areas that is opening up to us as something that we can explore in the future. Now that obviously we're mining Ethereum directly, and we're incredibly blessed to have a head of technology who really is a DeFi and staking master. So he and our new CFO Shane Downey spent a lot of time together, kind of talking about the art of the possible and where we can continue to strategize and take this thing.
Okay, sounds good. When we what was the next question? Sorry for this. You have this 6 exahash goal for next year. So when did you decide you want to go to 6 exahash? So is it a very new strategy, or how do you get this number? And how do you want to go there? I mean, we need a lot of miners to reach this number. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Well, I think the further we got into our strategic planning and assessed what we think we see coming in the hardware market over the next 6 to 12 months, obviously the changes we're seeing in the industry coming from the exodus in China, we felt like it was something that we could see a path to, that we felt confident we could stand behind, that there's a lot of optionality in how we can get there over the next 12 months. And that's why we were willing to put it out there and be public with that as our goal for the first half of next year.
Great. Yeah.
And of course our partnership with Validus gives us a lot of optionality for power growth as we need it, if and when we need it.
Great. I mean, we like these big numbers, this. Great to hear that. That was very important, I think, for many investors to have this goal, to go there. Maybe the last topic right now, the big word right now in the mining business is ESG. So can you tell us about the Mining Council? And you took part there. You're one of the founding members with Hut 8. And what is the plan there, and where does it go in the future?
I think the Mining Council has been really transparent about what it stands for. It's all about really just collectively coming together as a community where everybody is welcome that participates in the industry. We share best practices. We educate on the benefits of Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, and we encourage transparency in the industry. So it's really not much more complicated than that. I think you referenced the data that we put out. I believe it was last week, where we were able to capture the energy mix from a third of the mining industry that have already become members of the council, which is incredible. If you think about it, we the first conversation that we had about this possibility only took place at the end of May. So it's come together so quickly. It's been so warmly embraced. by the community in general, and we're really pleased that we're able to have a collective voice, because there's so much FUD that comes at our space, and not being able historically to target it or counter it as a collective was a challenge. So it's been a real benefit to come together in this way. And then certainly from a HUD-8 perspective, you've talked about our relationship with Validus and some of the things that they're able to do. About 2 months ago, we hired a head of power who is our head of sustainability, comes from a deep background in sustainable and renewable energy. We love being in the province of Alberta. It's an incredibly energy rich province. It's very, very friendly to Bitcoin mining and innovation. And so we want to find a way to work with the province to be part of the solution of bringing more renewables and more sustainable energy into the grid. They're at the Alberta grid right now is at about 20% renewables on the grid, with a target to grow to 30% by 2030. And we certainly see a synergy between the Bitcoin mining industry and the energy space in Alberta. And we want to work closely with them on that, so that we can continue to grow and stay in the province.
Great. I mean, the location is very important, or the jurisdiction. We have seen, for example, in the US, there are states like Texas, they're embracing it, and there are states like New York State or so, they're more or less fighting it. So I think that's very important, and I'm happy to hear that Alberta is very pro Bitcoin mining. So it makes sense to build the new facility there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And what's the nice thing too about having our operations so close together is we keep our operating expenses low. We're able to drive economies of scale because we can have one tech repair shop that services all of our facilities. If we need to share staff between sites, they can do that because they're able to just drive from one between the locations. And I think that's so important to reduce the geopolitical risk and to drive your economies of scale.
Okay. So 30 minutes. Thank you very much, Jamie, for coming in. It was a great conversation. Hopefully we can continue this. In 1 or 2 months would be great for the channel, for the community, because we have a lot of HUD-8 investors.
Anytime. I'm happy to come on. You just call me and I'll be here. We truly appreciate you and all that you do for the entire industry. And of course, your support and the support of your community. So I will never say no, whatever you need.
Sounds great. Okay. So, so in Germany, we have now evening. So I'll close the computer now and have dinner.
Okay. Well, you have a wonderful dinner. Thank you again so much for having me. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah. Thank you very much. See you. Bye.